All righty. Well, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're listening to this. If you're listening to the recording later on, my name is Steve Shaw, and I'm an Assistant Chief of Fort Lauderdale Fire Rescue. Honored to be hosting today's Hump Day Hangout, first Wednesday of the month, as part of the ISFSI podcast. We have a great show today. We got a few things we got to cover this, but before we do anything, I want to make sure we give credit to FDIC for giving us this platform, Fire Engineering for giving us this platform to go over things like training topics and everything upcoming for FDIC. Before we get into the content for today, before we get into the things we're going to talk about in terms of the presentations for FDIC and what you can expect, we're just going to do a couple of introductions of people we have on the panel today. So I want to pass it over to Captain Gettemeier.
Captain Brian Gettemeier, Cottleville Fire District, and I'm just outside St. Louis, Missouri.
All righty. Chief Heller.
Hi, I'm Aaron Heller, retired Deputy Chief from Hamilton, New Jersey.
All right, and Damon Simmons.
Good morning, good afternoon, folks. Damon Simmons, Oakland Fire Department.
All righty. Well, we got a great panel today, great group of ISFSI instructors and members. And you know what? We're going to get right into it today. Just to kind of, before we get started here, as we approach FDIC 2023 and very shortly, in a few weeks, we want to just kind of give credit once again to Chief Holton. As we go into this, I think most of us that are preparing for our presentations and our lectures, we go in there not only preparing for the immense weight that sits on our shoulders to present at FDIC and the honor that comes with that, but also a reflection of how he always used to say that FDIC is a tactics-driven conference. And as we prepare for that conference and prepare for our lectures and prepare for the content we'll be sharing and moderating and interacting with all the people that come to FDIC, we keep that in our focus. Basically today, and just some housekeeping things. Today, as you're watching this live, you can tune in with FE Talk, hashtag FE Talk through Twitter or through the social media handles. So basically for today, we're going to get right into it in terms of what to prepare for at FDIC. And initially, Chief Zeitz was going to be on, but he had to step out. So basically what we're going to do is kind of talk about what our presentations are going to be about, but also just the experience at FDIC and what people can expect. In preparation for this, right before we got on board, we were talking to Chief Rhodes, and he mentioned that already the numbers are really starting to ramp up for FDIC 2023 this year. I mean, like significantly. And I know that maybe when you've gone to conferences in the past, that's kind of always something that's been said, like, oh, this is record numbers. This is record numbers. No, this is serious. There's a lot of record numbers happening right now between the hotel rooms, between the hot classes filling up. I think the vast majority of them are at 99% capacity right now. So if you haven't got in, do your best to get in because they're about to be zipped up. So that being said, it's an exciting time. So in that being said, I know Chief Heller has to jump off pretty soon. So in the theme of diving into FDIC and our presentations coming up, I'm going to go throw it to you, sir. So let's go with, what we can expect at FDIC, what you'll be covering, and, whatever your thoughts are on your mind.
Well, as we get close to that time of the year, everybody starts getting more excited and for multiple reasons. It's by far the biggest and in reality the best educational opportunity in the fire service. I love small conferences. We go to small conferences all over the country, and they're very, very good ones. However, there's nowhere else in the country, really in the world, that you can go to one spot for a week and meet people from all walks of life, all walks of the fire service, and really put it all together. And I think that's what one of the things that FDIC brings that nothing else does, whether you want workshops or you want things on leadership or you want things on tactics or you want hands-on training there's over 20 hands-on training programs, I believe, this year that vary so much. And it's just what it is. It's for me, I've met some of my best friends in my life at FDIC, lifelong friends now. I've met some of the finest firemen and role models and people who've become mentors to me. And there's just nothing like it. And, we always said it's the greatest show on earth when it comes to firefighting. And that's only getting stronger, it appears, with these numbers. And looking at some of the classes that are being offered, what a variety. and it doesn't matter if you're from a big city or a little country town. There are offerings that you can immediately take that class, go home, and make an impact on your fire department. And that is just the coolest thing. And then we talk about all the other, all the networking and all the other events that are offered, whether it's the 5K or it's the fool's party and things like that. There's nowhere else you're going to get all this in 1 week. And we're blessed. We're very, very blessed that we get to do this. And I'm thrilled to be a part of it. This will be, I think I started attending in 1997, 1998. It wasn't far from when it had just moved from Cincinnati to Indy. So I know that dates me, but I started when I was really, really young. We'll go with that. But you never want to miss it, because once you've gone, you want to be there. So that's what I'm looking forward to, Steve.
Okay. So what are you going to be covering? What are you going to be doing up there?
So I'm doing a classroom session on Thursday afternoon, and it will be preparing for the commercial fire ground. I've really done a lot of stuff with commercial fire ground, done a lot of training in it, and been to a few fires in them, and I think it brings a lot to the table. I'm noticing other instructors are starting to pick up on that topic lately, so obviously it's a necessary topic. And I'm glad that I get the chance again to present it. And it's really, my class will be all about preparing people, getting your companies ready, getting them out of the single family dwelling mindset, and being aggressive with this.
Awesome. All right then, sir. All right, we'll kick it over to Damon. Damon, how's things in Oakland?
Hello, folks. Once again, thank you for having me on. Things are going great out here. We're weathering the storm, both literally and figuratively speaking. Some budget issues we're dealing with, but we'll get through it. And we had some much needed rain over the past few weeks, a little bit too much rain, but nevertheless, we had some rain. I was having a discussion yesterday with some individuals that were trying to sell us a product, and I was talking to them about FDIC. So I'm going to use two football analogies. Those of you from the Midwest, in particular Michigan and Ohio, you are very familiar with the Rose Bowl. And we all know that when we refer to bowl games, the Rose Bowl is the granddaddy of them all. So I was explaining this to these individuals in the context of FDIC. As Aaron mentioned, there are a number, especially once COVID hit, there were a number of small conferences and symposiums that were popping up all across the United States. That's great, and that works well for those individuals, whether it's financial reasons or they can't commit to be away from their home state for 4 or 5 days to attend those conferences. But FDIC, I'm sure we all can agree to this, is truly a battery recharger. It's also an opportunity to learn and network, as Aaron mentioned, from firefighters from all across the world. And that's why I enjoy attending FDIC. So for those of us, especially those younger individuals that are listening or who will be listening to this podcast at a later date, if you can make it out, it's a wonderful opportunity. For those of us who come from small organizations, volunteer organizations, do not be intimidated by the fact that you're going to be coming in contact with individuals from all types of organizations. This is an opportunity to learn and network and share with men and women from across the fire service world. My second football analogy, while I work for the Oakland Fire Department, I am not an Oakland Raiders fan. I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. But part of my title, my presentation is titled In Pursuit of Excellence. And Al Davis and the Raiders, that was part of their theme was commitment to excellence. So I played with that a little bit. For my presentation, I'm going to talk about how you can transform your organization through developing a comprehensive professional development plan. Chief Shaw and I, we discussed this a few weeks ago on another podcast. We were talking about professional development, both from an individual level, as well as from an organizational level. So we'll talk to you about some avenues, some strategies that you can implement in your organization, whether you have a small budget or you have a large budget. But as we all know, training and education is essential to fireground, or I should say hazard zone success. And if I could take a few seconds, City of Chicago, and my condolences to the men and women of Chicago Fire Department. 2 days ago, a 49-year-old firefighter perished while fighting a fire at a single-family dwelling. And then I turned on the TV this morning to hear that a firefighter who's in critical condition as a result of fighting a fire at a high-rise structure. And the thing I was telling with individuals who I work with today during our operations call is that we have to continue with a rigorous and purposeful effort as it relates to all things training and education, because will allow us to safely and efficiently and effectively handle all the incidents that we go on, whether they're EMS, hazmat, structural firefighting, or wildland firefighting. So I'm looking forward to networking and seeing committed firefighters from all across the world at FDIC in a few weeks.
All right, sir. Much said, and appreciate those condolences and that recognition. Much appreciated. So, Captain Gettemeier, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How's yourself?
Every day's an event.
Yeah, 19 days away, I believe, is what the countdown clock said to FDIC. So I'm going to spring board off of Chief Heller's a little bit of his comments. Is the fire service, we do a lot of really great conferences, and you meet a lot of great people. But there's an energy in Indianapolis that is unmatched. So I do encourage anybody, small department, large department, to go out, and you have to experience it at least once. And there's a lot of gatherings that happen outside of the conference. So a lot of good learning inside the conference and at the show, but there's a lot of good gathering and learning outside the conference at some of the social events and some of the people you can meet and on a smaller scale off to the side, kind of talk about, hey, this is what my department's facing, or this is what we're looking for in equipment. And there's a lot of great information you can pick up for organizations outside yours that might have similar problems, and can give you some really some good opportunities and some takeaways even outside the great classes that are offered.
And while I got you in the horn, what's your class gonna be, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
So my class is a municipal firefighter's guide to industrial incidents, and it's kind of along what Aaron had said, is to get us out of that residential mindset. If we think about it, most of our organizations have some sort of industry in it, and might be a small one, might be a big one. And for some of us, it's the key to our community. It's what makes our community. It's the jobs. It's the tax base. And if we were to lose that, it would really impact our community quite a bit. So it's about getting in and learning about those facilities and establishing that relationship ahead of time, because in the event of a big incident, that relationship you have with that company is going to be tremendous towards a successful outcome with that. And I think that a lot of times industry assumes when we go to the fire academy, we're taught a lot about industry, when in reality, most of our learning is about residential structures. So we don't really even know what we don't know about those companies. So we'll kind of address some of that in my class Thursday morning at 10:30. So is when you can join my class.
All righty. So as we're to continue on with this concept, and I'll give a little snapshot of mine as well, but I'm glad that we're already seeing some diverse classes about some topics here. And this is just a literal snapshot of just the wide variety of classes that are available at this conference the entire week. For myself, I'll be teaching on Wednesday afternoon to 3:30. I'm doing leadership through training and the crucial role of the fire service instructor. I'm really, obviously, from my background is in training, and this is my passion project. And what I'd like to do is go through a dialogue with the attendees, having an interactive discussion using a variety of polling tools and kind of getting their feel and their ideas of things up on the board, dive into traits of leadership, and more specifically, talk about how we can lead through training, how that the same leadership things we talk about in terms of traits and leadership tactics and whatnot are things we do through training before, during, and after, and really dive into that. And also for me, I've done a little bit of research, of extra research, and just in the last few months alone, I polled a bunch of extra people and got a bunch of additional content. And it reinforces the need to kind of go over some of the things that, even though we know as instructors not to do, if I keep hearing the same thing over and over again, we have to discuss it. Things like always giving credit to the people that are giving credit to people that when it's due. Everything is, and even going as far as granular as how to, maybe just a couple nuggets on how to use a PowerPoint. We still see people reading from PowerPoints and doing some goofy basic level mistakes, but I want to get into the transcendence of how we can lead through training. That's what my presentation is going to be on. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be fun. It's going to be Wednesday afternoon at 3:30, and I'm excited about prepping for that too. But going into just FDIC in general, and I just want to reinforce some of the things you guys have just said. One, there's something for everybody. There's absolutely something from everybody, whether you're from a single station volunteer department or a metro-sized massive county organization. And just by looking at the website and looking at the wide diversity of classes, it's obvious when you scope through there. In fact, we all know the challenge is when you get there, you want to attend so many classes in a single time frame, you just can't fit it in. So you have to be very judicious about where you're going to spend your time. And if you're going with a group, maybe dividing and conquering to bring that information back to your agency. I do want to say something, and Brian, you kind of just alluded to this. And this is what I want the next talking subject to be about, is how to maximize your time while at FDIC. And what I mean by that is this. My mind goes to the first time I attended FDIC. And I didn't get it. I went to the classes, took some notes, and that was pretty much it. But having left that first time at FDIC, going the next time, I realized there's so much more. There's absolutely so much more. And Brian, you alluded to that, between the after hours events, between the 5K, between the networking and the chance to meet the people who've written books and all kinds of that opportunity. So for me, for example, I know that now going back, and even besides being an instructor, taking advantage of every moment of the conference, not just the classes, not just people speaking, but every other ounce of that, between talking to the vendors and going out at night and having a beer with some of the persons you just saw teach a class. So as we think about that in our minds, Chief Heller, what are your thoughts about the ways to maximize your time while at FDIC?
Yeah, it's great points, man. A couple things. Plan it out. Be flexible, but I would plan it out. I would look at at what classes are being offered. Plan out what stuff you really are interested in versus what is your secondary choices, so to speak, and really figure out your schedule, because it's a big place and there's so many things you can get overwhelmed. Circle who you want to hear talk, what topics you want to hear, and look at their bios too, because not every class is going to be as good as the others. They're all there for a reason, but you got to pick what's going to be best for you. What is the most relatable, I think, for your fire department? What are you going to bring back to them? So I think that planning it out is a big deal. The other thing is the social aspect of this is very important. And I know the fire department will tell you they're paying for you to go to classes and they're not paying for a social aspect. So don't brag about it when you get back. However, you need to go to the bar, you need to go to the restaurants and see these guys, and you need to talk to people, because you're going to make friends. You'll be in classes and you will make friends with guys that eventually will be lifelong friends. And I say that from complete experience. I'm friends with guys I met the first year I attended FDIC. We still talk on a daily basis for the most part, or at least in groups. So that's really important. And the other thing is take good notes and just soak it up. These instructors, maybe some guy isn't, but for the most part, these instructors are so wide open and want to share. That's why we instruct. We don't instruct for us. We instruct because we want to share it. So ask the questions, right? And every instructor should be very approachable. Nobody should big league in and say, well, I'm an FDIC instructor. That's all BS. They want to share it. They want to interact with you. I know that's been a huge thing of mine. And I learned that from tremendous instructors whose classes I sat through over the years. So, you want to interact as much as you can. I would say this, and I'm going to give you this precursor. We've had this conversation many times here on Hump Day Hangout and other places. If you're looking to teach your own class, watch how these guys carry themselves. That's usually how you want to carry yourself. However, you need uniqueness. You don't want to take a picture of every slide that's up there And next thing you know, you're offering this class somewhere, because that's a good way to not do well in the fire service. And I've had it happen to me at FDIC, and I know of a lot of instructors who've complained of that. So listen, be a student of the game, bring this back, learn from these instructors. They're the most knowledgeable instructors in the world. They literally are the best. And there's some tremendous people. So get out there and just enjoy it and soak it all in. Be that sponge and interact. Even if you're not that person normally, say hi to people. It just starts that conversation. And the next thing you know, you made a lifelong friend, or you might have learned a whole lot from somebody who had stuff to share and they were looking for somebody to share it with. And that is the beauty of FDIC. And it doesn't matter if it was Bobby Halton saw you in a hallway. I guarantee you Chief Rhodes is going to be the same when it comes to shaking your hand and wanting your input, because these are tremendous leaders. That's who they are. And that is the majority of the instructors at FDIC. And Indy's a fun town. Lots of great restaurants, lots of great pubs. Just enjoy it all. Life is meant to be lived, my friends. So that's what I got for you. Steve, unfortunately, I got to jump because I got to get into the next meeting.
Okay. And that's the life of a retired fire chief, apparently. So yes, I understand.
Man, if I knew retire, I apparently I have completely screwed up retirement, I'm told, because you're supposed to slow down and do less. And I retired December 1st, and I think I've been home only one time more than a week in a row since then. So, but it's fun. It's fun. So again, sorry, right, I got to jump, guys, but I really appreciate it. And I'm really stoked to see you all in really 3 weeks. So it's going to be awesome.
All right, sir. We'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Take care.
So Chief Heller mentioned a couple things, and he's right. You have to have a plan when you go to something as expansive as FDIC, and I'm glad he brought that up. And he also kind of reinforced the need to interact with the instructors that are out there. Some of them being on the podcast today. We want to hear from the people that are in our classes. We want to hear the people from the conference. In fact, quite frankly, if people get up from our class and just walk out, well, what have we done wrong not to engage, not to interact, not to have people come up afterwards and want more information or want to seek out additional knowledge on the topic we were talking about? So we encourage that. We want that. They're not, as Chief Heller said, we're not supermen, we're not gurus, we're not Gandalfs. We're people that we're human beings, and we want to interact. We just love what we do. We have this wonderful platform, and we want to interact with the people that are choosing to be better students of the fire service. So Brian, going further with that, what are your suggestions? If you're going to a conference like FDIC, what's the best way to maximize your time while you're there?
Well, I was definitely going to springboard off the plan. So for me, I have 3 classes every session that I narrow it down to. And some of it is looking at the topic, like what do I as an engine company captain want to learn about? So I might narrow my focus down that way, or a new topic, or if you're looking to promote or go on that line to seek something out that way. Or else you can look at instructor bios too. If you go to the website, you can find my bio. So maybe if you read something that Steve Shaw wrote in the magazine, you're like, hey, I really like what he writes. I want to see him. You can click on his bio and it'll tell you what time he's teaching. So, some of it might be finding people just based on what I've read in the articles in the magazine, and I like how they write. So I want to see how they are in person. So kind of narrow it down to at least my big 3. And then that morning I might debate at length over a cup of coffee with myself and figure out where I'm going to go. So that's one. If you're a first time person, try to find somebody that's been there before and maybe know their way around the block a couple times. There are tremendous things that happen outside the classroom setting. Whether it be meeting with vendors or going to the keynotes, I highly suggest you go to the keynotes and the opening ceremony. It is truly an awe-inspiring event. But get out there and see even if you don't participate in the stair climb or the run or any of that, go out and see that stuff. And just do things outside the class, because you might stumble across somebody, like Aaron said, I have lifelong friends from FDIC. Well, you might meet that standing, watching the people doing the run and striking up a conversation with a firefighter. And then you look at the event schedule. It has one of the Fools Bashes and all that. And if you want to hang out in an evening and with some like-minded firefighters that like to train and love the fire service, do one of those social events. And as the Muddy River Fools president will tell me, is get outside your comfort zone and talk to firefighters outside your area, and meet new friends. Don't hang out with your current friends. Go meet new friends in the fire service. And those new friends are people you can call when I'm struggling again with I want to talk about hose loads. Well, get outside my Metro St. Louis area and call Steve Shaw and say, hey, what are you guys doing down in your area for hose loads, and how does that work for you? And it might be something that's outside my own little area. So I'm not a social guy, and I'm definitely a comfort zone guy. But I've found pushing those limits in Indy has opened up some opportunities for me.
No, you had a lot of good tactical advice there, and that's kind of where I want to keep focusing on is some of that right there. In terms of a couple other things, and Aaron mentioned this before, seeing the way Indianapolis basically just, and I don't want to use bends over backwards, but just totally wraps its arms around the fire service during that week is just nothing short of amazing. Between all the restaurants and bars having some sort of special, or the advertising out there, it's amazing just to see how much they not only respect us, but just invite us into their community over there. And it's really impressive to see that. I do want to talk a little bit more about the tactics, and as we were talking about the tactical ways and how to best navigate through FDIC, just some again, going back to with Chief Holton in my head, the tactical walkaways from going to FDIC. I can tell you right now that a lot of stuff I do today as a trainer, as an admin chief over training, I was able to grasp from going to FDIC and through the variety of courses that I've been through there. Just these great nuggets that I walked away and was able to immediately deploy at my respective agency the next week. Just a couple things. For example, the use of a QR code and how to incorporate that in training and polling tools and whatnot, and how to incorporate that as part of a training program. Everything from how to present, watching some of these instructors and the way they were able to wrap their arms around the classroom and get them engaged and make you want to stay there the entire time and not fall asleep and just be engaged the entire time, whether it's a 2-hour lecture or a 4-hour lecture. I will say, just to follow up on something we were talking about in terms of the instructors and the content, in terms of interactions, we do want the interaction. The people like us that are teaching or writing articles, we want feedback. When you talk about basic communication and interactiveness and completing that communication cycle, you have the sender, the message, the receiver, but then that feedback, that follow-up, that loop, that feedback is so crucial for us as instructors. We want to connect. We want to have the feedback. We want to connect and then close that loop to make sure that what we're passing on has value. And that's so important for us. So if you're out there taking classes, if you're out there listening to this podcast and you're taking, whether it's at FDIC or wherever, we want the feedback. Please don't think that we just want to walk away and go back to sleep or go back to our job. We want the feedback. We want to know that what we're doing matters. So I guess that's another question I got from you, Brian. And I'm waiting until Damon gets back on because I know he has to step out as well. But
right.
Going back a few years, let's pretend, pick a class that you attended during FDIC that spoke to you and something you were able to tangibly deploy when you got back, if something comes to mind.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of a specific example because there's been so many just good ones where you've taken away something from a class, and as an instructor, you might just take away how something is presented or how a PowerPoint slide is laid out, but yeah, there's so many. I have notebooks full of stuff that if I can leave the class with 1 or 2 key items, I'm way ahead. And I've taken so many great classes there that there's been more than 1 or 2 solid nuggets when I've come back to give the crew or give the department or our region to those classes. So fortunately, something's not just jumping out at me, but trust me, they're there. And I'm going to spring back off of what you were saying about the feedback. I absolutely want the feedback. Last year was my first year presenting this class at FDIC. I had some industrial firefighters actually stick around afterwards, so they're more of a subject matter experts than I am. and we just sat down and talked. And they gave me some new perspectives on some things, and I greatly appreciated that time. As I tell our guys when they do go, is those instructors put on their bunker pants one boot at a time, just like you and I do. So I've always found instructors to be completely approachable, whether it's after class, before class, in the hallway, out socially, to just stop and say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? So I definitely would encourage the approaching the instructors and seeking feedback or inquiring more. My whole lesson plan is basically available as my handout, so there's no secrets there.
It's interesting. I'm actually going through my phone, and again, going back to nuggets, talk about tactical takeaways and deployable things that we need to do as students of the fire service. I always encourage people in some way, shape, or form to be taking notes. Always have the ability to take notes in the class, whether you're physically, like I'm doing right now, writing things down on a pad of paper. That's me. That's the way I do it. And thanks to Nick Papa, if he's going to listen to this, I write in cursive now because of that guy who I saw him writing in cursive one day. He just wrote a book called Coordinating Ventilation. And I saw him taking notes of the class one day. He's taking it in cursive. I'm like, what are you doing? And he was explaining that, by taking it in cursive, I guess you in some way absorb the knowledge a little bit more. And for whatever reason, I started doing the same thing. So thanks, Nick, if you're listening, because I'm still doing it. But I'm looking at my phone, and what I do with my notes is I take a picture of all the notes that I do, and I scan them into my phone. So right now, for example, I'm scanning through my phone, looking at FDIC 2015 and all the notes I took. And I got notes from Frank Viscuso. I got notes from James Crawford on managing the Mayday. I got Frank Lipsky for flipped fire training. The things I learned in flipped fire training were made me a lot more efficient in what I do in terms of like the QR codes I talked about. I'm looking at all these people. I got information from Billy Goldfeder. What else? Dan Madrigowski for flow paths and whatnot when it was starting to be a big deal. So I still maintain all of this. I learned so much, and it just reminds me of how much content is out there and trying to capture it all, and not only capturing it, but what to do with it afterwards. So going back to what we were just talking about, when you do take those notes, when you do get that information, following up with the instructor, following up with that presenter, and just ask them a question about it. Hey, flesh this out a little bit for me. Where'd you get this information? We like that. It helps us. It helps the person asking the question. It's huge. But then the trick is trying to find a way to utilize this information. How do you deploy it back at home? And there's a variety of different ways to do that. I know and you don't want to be well, honestly, you don't want to be that guy, but we know we have those guys that go to conference and they come back on fire. They want to change the world. And sometimes those can be a little off-putting, and sometimes they come at the right time. So it depends what the topic is and their enthusiasm or lack thereof coming back. I do tell you that I think about conferences like this, and with my new fire chief, Chief Golan, he's very specific. He's very demanding of the ROI. If we're going to send you to a conference, what's the return on investment? What are you bringing back to your organization? If you're going to a conference and it's just about you and you keep it internal, well, what's the good? If you're not sharing something, if you're not, and I hate to quote Chief Goldfeder's book, but I'll do it. If you're not passing it on, well, what are you doing? What's the value for everybody else if you're not passing it on? So the ways to pass that information on becomes the return on investment. And that's the what's going to keep you wanting to go back. It's going to want to keep your bosses sending you to conference like this, especially the ones like FDIC and the larger ones. So Brian, as we're keeping this conversation going, what have you found to be ways that we can appropriately pass that information on? Like what's worked for you in the past? If you found something that was a really tangible nugget or something that was just something you knew needed to be transferred back to your organization, does anything bring back a memory of how you've done that or something that was transferable like that?
I think we need to focus on the nuggets, and not do the whole class. There should be no expectation. Like Aaron had talked about, don't take my whole class and then go out and present it as your own, but take nuggets away from my class and absolutely share them. So I have the advantage. I'm an engine company captain. So we spend a lot of time at the kitchen table talking about stuff. And a lot of times when guys come back from class, it's, hey, what do you learn? And I'm just looking for that one nugget. Just tell me something. Let's just start a conversation. It seems to snowball from there. And we'll talk about what they learned, why that department did it that way. How does that look in our organization? It might mean, hey, let's take a walk out to the apparatus bay and look how that's set up on our truck. or if we had that incident, how we deploy those resources. So to me, it's just I like that. I'm short attention span guy, so I like those little bitty nuggets, and that's what I'd rather just jot down some notes and just hash it out among us as the engine company and say, hey, what did we learn at this conference, and how does it apply here? And can we just fine tune it? And if we can fine tune it on our engine company, I'm a 4-engine house, department, so it's easy for me to say, oh, hey, we did it this way. We can present it to the ship. Well, if we present it to the ship and it works out well, then it's easy enough to implement in the organization. So,
no, I definitely are akin to that mindset as well. It's that whole adage of, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Absolutely.
If you come back with this massive list of things and massive ideas to change the world, that could be overwhelming in some cases. So if you bring them back in navigable, manageable chunks, little nuggets, like you said, that can be easily deployed into your truck, your engine, your rescue truck, whatever it is, that's a great start, and it could set the precedence of little things going forward. So I definitely appreciate that.
As firefighters, we don't like change, and we don't like the way things are, is often said that way. So if I can subtly change it, I'm the frog in the boiling water, right? As I slowly heat it up, and if I don't notice the change happening through just little nuggets, sometimes it's easier to implement your end strategy one little bite at a time. So,
yeah. I also wanted to make sure that I mentioned, I was talking to Chief Rhodes about this, about the fact that how FDIC is now combined with GEMS, the medical side of things. And I know that what he and I have been talking about over the last month is the idea of how to enhance fire-based EMS and the culture that comes with that. And what I'm doing here in Fort Lauderdale is very similar to what Chief Rhodes and the entire staff is trying to do with GEMS, and bringing up everything from the content to the articles that go into GEMS to the GEMS games. And I know that he put out, as well as a lot of us put out, some recent reminders that the GEMS games are happening, and if they haven't registered, there might be some time in that. But these, the fact that fire-based EMS is what we do, and a lot of times, EMS it gets a bad rap, or can be looked at as a red-headed stepchild, or if you work for a business organization like mine, it's hard sometimes to.
Steve froze up here.
Yeah, frozen.
To keep the proper mindset, because
is.
of all the, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of awards come from the EMS side.
Right. So Steve, you froze up a little bit there.
So where was I?
So you're on this great roll on how we need to embrace fire-based EMS, and then we start talking about busy engine companies, and then our busy cities like yourselves, and then the world froze.
IT issues where you can't get around them.
Right.
Going with this is, I guess where I was going with this is, it's a mainstay of what we do. And whether you're in EMT doing some BLS skills, or if you're an advanced practice paramedic on a department that does more advanced skills than a traditional paramedic, it's part of what we do. So I'm glad that Chief Rhodes is doing his part, and the whole team is doing their part to enhance that culture of fire-based EMS, because there is a lot of joy and just positive value that comes from that. So in terms of that, I know that there's going to be a big push in making sure people are aware of what's being offered on that side and the opportunities that come with that. But it's like anything. If you're going to do something, we want to do it well. If we're going to do this job, this profession, every part of it, we want to do all of it well. So I'm glad that there's the opportunities there at FDIC and GEMS to do everything. And like I mentioned before, there's something for everything there. So not only fire-based, but also on the medical side. And that's important. In terms of some of the other events and whatnot over there, is there anything else you're planning to do while you're there that is that either what you do normally while you're there or out of the ordinary? What's your plan there?
Right. I mean, there's, of course, as the Society of Instructors, we have our event on Tuesday night for that, which is going to be Tuesday night, which is going to be a great opportunity for us to see other instructors that are members of the society. There's the Fool's Bash, which is, of course, on there. And of course, you're going to probably run across a vendor or a sales organization from your area that might have a social where you can catch up with people in your organization. But my plan is to take in the classes. If you haven't been to the trade show, you can block out your whole week because it'll take you that long to walk through it. So there's some great opportunities to see new equipment, talk to vendors and stuff like that. there's going to be no shortage of activities for anybody to do. So get up early in the morning, walk over to the convention hall and hang out all day to the evening times and go home and get a good night's sleep and start over again in the morning. You were talking about the restaurants embracing us and all that. And, you will see bagpipes walking through restaurants and, none of us are fazed by that. It's an awesome feeling, but it's just like, that's just kind of Indianapolis in April, right? Is that bagpipers walk through restaurants and bars and just like they own the place and they walk out the other side and we're like, okay, back to dinner. The one thing I did want to talk about a little bit, because we kind of alluded to a little earlier, was writing articles and teaching classes that typically towards the end of the conference, and I didn't specifically look for it this time, so I'm hoping I'm not speaking out of turn, but typically fire engineering will open up a class where Diane and some of that senior staff will talk to you about how you go about writing articles, how you go about presenting classes, because they're always looking for new content. So think, as far as content goes, think beyond what we typically see. Don't there's a lot of great leadership classes out there, but there's a lot of great leadership classes out there. So the Brian Gettemeier niche with talking about industry, there's not a lot of people writing articles on there. So that's given me an opportunity to share some of my knowledge. So be confident with your knowledge. I would really suggest going to that, because I did that a few years ago. And hey, I've written articles and I've had an opportunity to speak. So I got some good little nuggets out of that too to help me. So I think fire engineering is always looking for new perspectives, new talent to write and stuff like that.
No, you hit the nail on the head with two things you just talked about, and I'll reinforce what you just said in terms of first of all the ISFSI, and you mentioned getting involved. I'll be the first one to say it. The reason I even have this opportunity to have this platform and join you on things like this is because of my involvement with the ISFSI. Because I was involved, because I wrote an article that spurred me to get my first podcast and go over the article. And then I just became a regular contributor to this. And it was the entry drug, if you will, to getting involved with more with FDIC and fire engineering. And you also mentioned the articles. Yes, FDIC, shameless plug, we are always looking for good, solid content. And just because you've never written before, don't feel like you can't write something. You can write something, turn it in, and they will look it over and give you feedback. And if you need to tweak it, great. Sometimes it doesn't need any tweaking. But we are constantly looking for people with content and a variety of topics. And you mentioned before, whether it's a niche topic or whatever, everybody has something to offer to somebody else. So if you're even thinking about writing something, please do so. And I know that last time I attended one of those classes years ago, if you especially are able to do it on an incident and it includes some lessons learned, we love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You and I can write articles on leadership all day. Someone turns in something on an article on a call they just ran. That's going to trump us every time, especially if it comes with good nuggets of lessons learned, both positive and maybe opportunities. So, but you're right. So just a plug for the ISFSI. Look into it. It's a great program, great group of people. There is a meetup on Tuesday night. And if you're in the FDIC, if you're at Indianapolis, please swing by and say hi. But you also mentioned the articles. Yes, we need more articles, please. We're always searching for those, and the more articles you write, the more ability you have to get a better standing chance of getting selected to present at FDIC. And please understand, even people that are teaching like you and I, we get rejected as well. Right. First time I put in there, I got rejected both times, and I was already doing podcasts. So it is what it is. But that being said, at the end of the week, I believe, still do that class where they show you how to be an instructor, what you need to do to prepare, to go over the articles they're looking for. So they're basically teaching you how to be more involved at this level. So that's definitely something you should consider if you haven't got involved before. So from the tactical side, definitely consider getting involved, especially if you have a niche topic or a topic you're passionate about. And that goes from the GEM side too. If there's something you're passionate about, EMS and the fire-based EMS, they're looking for on the same side. So as we're coming close to the top of the hour here, I know Demond had to step away, I guess, for what he's doing in Oakland over there. But just any final thoughts as we come up to the end of FDIC, and then and just general thoughts that we talked about. Anything to wrap up as we're coming close to the end?
Well, I was kind of going to bounce off what you had said a little bit about getting a rejection. So I had submitted my class for FDIC and got a thanks, but no thanks. But shortly, I would say a month or two later, Diane had reached out to me and says, "Hey, can you write us an article on your subject? We have a supplement coming up in a couple months, and we'd like to know what you did." And I basically wrote my lesson plan, submitted it, and sure enough, the next year when I submitted it, I based it up. Hey, my class is based off this article. Well, they knew what I was talking about. So don't get discouraged by a one or two denials. I would keep on writing and sending stuff back. No, I'm looking forward to it. I have to say I'm a little bit like a kid heading into Christmas. I have my catalog open. I have my all my events circled like gifts that I want, and I'm anxiously looking forward to heading to Indianapolis and getting to see some more friends and make new friends, and just participate in the events. That's all I can say is participate.
Yep, I'm on the same page. When I go there, it's a nice balance because one, we have the honor to speak at FDIC, and that's a tremendous honor. We're both cognizant of the responsibility that comes with that to really be the top of our game, because this is the Fire Department Instructors Conference. And if we're going to be teaching at a level at the FDIC, we have to be not only giving good content, but showing people what that looks like, what makes an instructor at the highest level. We have to be cognizant of that and step up our game. It's a never ending process for us. We don't just rest on our laurels and say, I got this now. No, we're constantly updating our material. We're constantly checking ourselves, reviewing, making sure that we not only deliver the content, but do it in a way where people can walk away from and be that much better of an instructor. And like you, I love sitting in the classrooms and still being that student. That's the balance part of this is sitting in the classrooms and listening to other instructors, listening to the newer instructors who are teaching for the first time, and learning from them as well as the tenured veteran instructors. There's always something you're picking up. And with that many people teaching at that level, the amount you can walk away with is astounding. And we've talked about that. But again, as we come close to the end of this, just remembering that across the board, there's multiple ways to get the most out of FDIC, between all the way to the hands-on class at the beginning of the week, the pre-conference classes, the classes going through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, up into Friday, and then all the other ancillary things that comes with it. There are so many ways to grab so much great information, but you have to remember that's all out there. It's not just sitting in a class and taking notes and walking away. It's how to share the knowledge, how to pass on that knowledge to your respective agencies, how to have that network. And I think the word networking was met before. This is the opportunity. This is the opportunity to build that network, to establish connections with people, to just really, really take what you know and just enhance it at an exponential level. So, so as we're coming close to the end, and once again, FDIC is coming up. It's a few weeks away. There's a lot going on, and I think we covered a couple of things today. And I'll just summarize it. A shameless plug for the ISFSI. Please check us out on the web, and then if you're at FDIC, please look it up and get some more information about that. It's a good group of people. There is something for everybody at FDIC, between GEMS, between FDIC, everything there's something for everybody. We mentioned the articles, and we're serious about that. We're always looking for people to write articles, and a lot of them. So if you have a passion, if you have subject matter expertise in something, if you've been on a recent call that we can all learn something from, please put it into pen to paper and turn it in, and let's see what we can do with that. We'd love to learn from everybody that's out there, no matter how much time you have on the job. In terms of the meetups, the networking, the after hours events, there's a ton out there. And I think the biggest word on that was properly planning your week. Don't just wing it. Go in there with a plan and make sure you know what's going on, where you're going, because it's easy to get lost. The convention center is huge, and even outside the convention center, which street you're going to which bar, to which coffee shop, wherever, you got to have a plan. So I'm glad
be flexible though, because some additional plans might come up, and take those advantages. If somebody outside your circle invites you to participate in something, I would highly suggest doing it.
100%. And the last few things, with the presenters, with the people that are presenting and have the honor to present, ask us questions, interact with us, get our contact information. I would be absolutely shocked, and I guarantee this is not going to happen, if someone didn't call you back or reach back out to you when you wanted more information. That is why we are there. That is the purpose of us being there, to pass on the information, to establish those connections, and make sure we're making the fire service better in this way. Take notes, take a lot of notes, whether you do it digitally, whether on paper, and then with those notes, follow up and get better at your craft. But consider what you're learning at FDIC. Consider the opportunity there as the opening of a door. It's the beginning of a relationship. It's the beginning of a connection, and you can only expand from there. There's tons of opportunity there. Indianapolis is an amazing city. The people that go there are all there for the same reason, to be better at the fire service, to be better fire service instructors, to do better at what we do. So that'll be said. Any final word, Brian?
The last thing is we have the Chief Halton Remembrance Service, and I think that FDIC and fire engineering wouldn't be where it was without his leadership and the team that he put together. And I know he has tremendous support behind the scenes, and he was the face, but he's the face that all of us witnessed at the keynote start at like a tropical depression and end up being a Category 5 hurricane by the time he was done talking. I came from a Midwest guy to you Florida guys, it was something, and it'll definitely be a different experience without him. But I think we as the fire service need to take a little time out of our busy social schedule in Indy to pay our respects for what he contributed to this organization and the conference and the magazine and the fire service in general. So.
Well said. And I think that's what a large theme of this conference will be is a remembrance of him and an appreciation for all that he's done and all the relationships he's helped build and enhance over the years. And I think each of us could go on for a long time individually about what those individual experiences were. I'm sure that we're going to get a lot of that at this month. So, all right, well, I know that Damon couldn't get back on, but that's okay. That's the life of a chief officer. We're well aware. But all that being said, just as a reminder, we're first Wednesday of every month. ISFSI gets together on this Hump Day Hangout to talk training. As we come into the next one in May, we'll be recapping kind of how FDIC was and choosing the next topic. And as we always do, we're going to try to focus on the tactics, the deployable takeaways, not only the content of what we're talking about, but what we can do with it, how we can take what we're talking about and deploy it, to use it, to utilize it, to become better fire service instructors, better fire service members, and make our beloved fire service that much more better. So that all being said, we hope to see you in Indianapolis. We hope to see you at FDIC. If you have any questions for us, you can always reach out to us. So we have our lines are open and emails are out there. All that being said, everybody have a wonderful week, and we'll hope to see you soon.